We're now looking at verse 39, and after all the various lessons that we've learnt, it's now time to bring the whole of the Guru Granth Sahib's message, the message of the Anand Sahib, the ultimate teachings of the Guru, to a conclusion. And the Guru asks us to explore something very fundamental, which is, what changes are you going to make in your life? And that's what we're going to be looking in verse 39. The verse begins with, "Sing this song of the eternal in the truest home. Sing this beautiful song in the truest home, where the eternal truth is always meditated upon. They meditate on the truth when you are pleased, and they understand through the Guru's instruction. This truth is the master of all. Only that servant who is blessed can obtain it. Says Naanak, they sing the song of the eternal in the truest home." I'm sure you're probably thinking that in all of these verses of Anand Sahib, we've covered so many different lessons that at some point you might even feel a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit lost. You might be thinking there are so many different things. Where do we go from here? Is there a single summary? Is there something that the Guru can tell us that just gives us a summary of the overall message about what we're supposed to do? Because when there are so many different things to learn, you can feel quite inadequate, that you don't really know where to start. And so the Guru here, towards the end of Anand Sahib, is saying, this is the summary. This is what I want you to do. This is what I recommend is the change that you need to make in your life. And verse 39 begins with, "He sacha sohilaa, saachai ghar gaavhu. Sing this song of the eternal in the truest home. Gaavhu ta sohilaa, ghar sachai, jithai sadaa sach Dhi-aavhay. Sing this beautiful song in the truest home, where the eternal truth is always meditated upon." Now it might sound strange, but the answer or the solution that the Guru is giving is to sing. Now, what does that mean? It's so amazing that all the teachings within the Sikh spiritual tradition is done through song. And what is the Guru trying to do with this song, with this Kirtan, with this divine praise? The Guru, we know time and time again, is trying to reprogram our minds, try to reframe our thinking so that we understand what life is really about. But the Guru is doing it through songs. And what is the song doing? The song is allowing us to repeat this message, this wisdom on a daily basis. Think about this. I'm sure you've seen times in your life where you just can't get a song out of your head, where it's completely stuck. That is the power of a song. Whereas if I said exactly the same lyrics to you as the song that you've got stuck in your head, you wouldn't necessarily have that thing just repeating, playing again and again in your mind. So there is a technique here that the Guru understands about how the mind works. And the Guru knows that in order to pass this wisdom over, to pass it in a method, in a way that works with the human mind. So what is this song about? And how is it that song can actually be a solution? Because it doesn't quite make sense to us in our minds. How can singing be the solution to our misguided thinking? It almost sounds too simplistic. We think that if mankind has not understood its true self, if mankind hasn't realized how to connect with the whole, how is the song going to help us? How is any song going to help us? It sounds like the solution needs to be more complicated than that. And what are we singing? How do we sing? Does the Guru give us any advice here? Well, the Guru gives us this word sohilaa, and we've heard this word before in verse 16. And let's just remind ourselves on what sohilaa actually means. Sohilaa is a song of celebration. It is a song of joy. It is traditionally a song that is sung during the times of wedding. So in a house where a young man or a young woman is about to get married, everyone in the house is singing sohilaa, singing these wedding songs of celebration. So when the Guru is saying in this line, to sing sohilaa, he's not talking about a specific set of words. He's not talking about, now within the Sikh tradition we have one of the evening prayers is called the sohilaa. He's not saying sing that verse. He's talking about in general singing the Guru's wisdom. In fact, one way to think about it is all of the Guru's wisdom is sohilaa. Everything that the Guru has talked about is a song of wisdom. And so the Guru is saying, sing the song of wisdom. Now let's look a little bit further into what the song of wisdom is about. We've already heard it in verse 16, where the Guru said that the sohilaa is the Guru's word. Sohilaa is the Guru's message. In verse 16 we heard, Shabdo sohava, sadaa sohilaa, Satguru sunaya. The delightful word and always beautiful song that the true Guru has spoken. So now we're very clear what the Guru is saying. When the Guru is saying in verse 39, sing this sohilaa, what he really means is sing the Guru's words. Sing the Guru's message. So where do we find this Guru's message? Now, let's go back to verse 16. The next line of verse 16, the Guru talked about where sohilaa exists. And he says the sohilaa exists in the enlightened mind. In that line, he said, Ehe tinke man vasya jin turho likhya aya. It embeds in their mind for whom it is written at the source. So I want us to be very clear on what the Guru is saying here. The Guru is saying, live your life with this song. Live your life with this Guru's wisdom, but don't just repeat this wisdom in a mechanical way. Sing it, enjoy it. And how do we find out what are these Guru's words? What is this word that I need to sing? And the Guru is saying that this is the word of the enlightened mind. When the mind is awakened, when it understands this wisdom, not just from somebody who's read the books and is able to repeat the words, but somebody who's lived it, somebody who's actually worked out what it means for them. When somebody's mind has truly united with oneness, the words that come out of their mouth is the sohilaa, is that wisdom. They speak that wisdom. They are living, breathing examples of the Guru's wisdom. And so that is the celebrating mind, that mind that has lost all the baggage of life, all the problems, that isn't living under the burden of the ego and me and myself. The mind that is free, is liberated, is always joyful, is always singing. And remember what they're singing? They're singing a wedding song. And the wedding, what is a wedding? A wedding is a union between a bride and a groom. And so the wedding song of the mind is where the mind has united with oneness, where this idea that I am an individual has been lost. I'm no longer an individual. I'm now united with the whole, with the oneness itself. When you can find people who have that kind of mind, the Guru is saying spend time with them because they've broken that sense of separation. They're no longer searching for the divine. They're no longer longing for it. All of that longing and searching has stopped and they're now rejoicing. And so this is essentially the Guru's mind, those who have the Guru's mind. How do we access people who have the Guru's mind? Now for me personally, it's the wisdom that is written in the whole of the Sikh tradition. The wisdom of Guru Granth Sahib, which is the name of the spiritual text, where all of the wisdom has been put together. Remember, what is the Guru Granth Sahib? The Guru Granth Sahib is a collection of songs written by the Gurus of the Sikh tradition, but also other enlightened masters. It's such a unique scripture in the world because it's not just about one particular person's point of view. It is a collection of many different spiritual masters from many different regions, from many different dialects and many different time frames, but all with the same experience of oneness, all speaking the same wisdom. So the Guru Granth Sahib is this collection of songs from enlightened masters around the world. And when we have access to that wisdom, and the Guru is saying, in order for you to elevate yourself, in order for you to think like them, all you need to do is access their wisdom. Access that so that you may also connect with that oneness. And the Guru is using these words, saachai ghar gaavhu. Sing in the truest home. And where is the truest home? The Guru's home, wherever you can find people who are willing to sit and talk about this message. This is why I'm so passionate about this idea that you can't learn this wisdom on your own. And we've heard this message time and time again within the Anand Sahib itself, where the Guru is saying, come on saints, let's get together. Let's sing together. Let's discuss together. Let us share collectively our understanding so that we may learn from one another, so that we may be able to see mistakes that we're making, but we may not be able to understand them ourselves. Somebody else may be able to lovingly, kindly point out where we need to refine our own internal practice. And so I've always encouraged as many people as possible, even those who watch these Naanak Naam videos or listen to our audio, don't just learn this on your own. Find local people who are passionate about this wisdom, who want to learn and explore ideas more, because you're going to learn so much more when you can share ideas with other people. Set up meetup groups, find ways, and it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It can be within your own home, and this is why at the end of the Anand Sahib, every single episode, we've created these questions for you to actually go out there and spend time and reflect this wisdom. Don't just consume this as a short podcast or video that you watch or listen to and then you forget about it. Really start to question these fundamental things about your life and do that with other people so that you can understand them in a better way. And the Guru is saying that is the saachai ghar. Go in any home where you can surround yourself with people who are willing to all go on this journey with you. And there may be people who are further along the journey of self-discovery, who may be able to help you. So wherever this Guru's wisdom is being contemplated, go there, spend your time there. If the Guru has one message to give you at the end of the Anand Sahib, it is spend time with people who are going to help you grow in yourself, who are going to help you develop further. So that's one way of translating this saachai ghar in the true home, in the truest home, in the home where the truth is being discussed. And that's almost the interpretation that we can use to try and understand this from an external perspective. The instruction is spend time with spiritually wise wisdom seekers, with the Sadh Sangat, with the community of the enlightened ones. And who are the enlightened ones? How do you know that you're in the Sadh Sangat? There is only one way to know that you are surrounding yourself by people who are absolutely speaking the truth. It is where the story of oneness is being retold, where oneness is being discussed, where non-duality, non-ego, losing the self, getting rid of your individuality, where oneness is truly being understood and our own sense of individuality is being challenged, our ego is being destroyed. That is where you know you've reached the home where the true wisdom is being constantly perpetuated. So spend time with people who remind you of this eternal truth. Use that wisdom, that truth, to get back to your own truth. Because remember, this isn't just about textbook knowledge. This isn't about increasing your ego that you know more about spirituality. You really have to use this wisdom to come back into your inner home. And that's where we can now start to look at, does this line of going and exploring this wisdom in the true home, does this line have an internal meaning as well? And of course, with the Guru's wisdom, there are so many meanings. Whatever wisdom that we've been able to share with you through this Naanak Naam series is only a small fraction of what Anand Sahib could possibly mean. There are so many different meanings that we haven't been able to cover. But one of the things that I always try to look at is there an external understanding of this wisdom and an internal understanding? And there is another way to translate what this Guru is saying here. And another meaning is, Guru is saying, jithai sadaa sach Dhi-aavhay. Go to that home where the eternal truth is always meditated upon. And that word always is really interesting. Because if you go to an external place, you can argue that it isn't always being discussed. There isn't always a community available. Sometimes there are people who say that we don't live near anyone who is willing to discuss this. I don't have access to other people who is willing to go on this journey with me. I'm not in a family where I can discuss this with other people, or I don't have that circle of friends. So how do I access this? And the Guru is saying, go to that home where the truth is always meditated upon. And there is one place that you have access to, and that is your own internal home. So this is not a location. This is not a place that you go to. It is a space where the Guru's wisdom is always true. Remember, the word sach means permanent truth. It is always true. It's never going to change. But when we talk about going within ourselves, we think, well, if I've understood this wisdom correctly, then I know that I'm not permanent. My body is not permanent. My thoughts and ideas, my mind is not permanent. So how can I have a permanent truth within me if I'm impermanent in myself? Well, there is one thing that never changes in every single human being, and that is this life essence. There is, regardless of how old you are, there is aliveness in you. It might feel a little bit intangible, and I never want to give you any advice or any interpretation about how I'm understanding this wisdom. I never want to share it with you in a way that leaves you more confused and you think, well, I don't know what to do with that wisdom. And that's where we're really trying to go with this particular verse, to really delve deeper into what exactly do I need to do. And the Guru is saying that there is something in you that is absolutely true, and that's your aliveness. No matter what's happening in your body, there is aliveness. And even when your body is so weak and old that your body is no longer able to sustain itself, the aliveness doesn't die. In the Sikh tradition, we say that the aliveness just leaves the body, but the aliveness doesn't die. So the body is something that has to be shed, something like an external layer. You know, sometimes you watch these nature documentaries and you see these reptiles and snakes that will completely shed their external shell, and they'll be born out of that, and they'll leave an external shell. Well, kind of the same way, that's what we're doing. That's what we've come into this body and we've left this body. But we are that essence, that spirit. And the Guru is saying, go and find that. Keep your attention there. Don't focus on your external world all the time. Even though you have to live in the world, even though you have to engage with the world, keep your focus on that truest essence of who you really are. It's not just about your relationships and your responsibilities. That isn't what your life is about. Your life is about understanding your truest essence, and keep your attention there. Remember, the Guru has said time and time again, why do you keep your attention on the external things? Why do you spend all of your time with your family and worrying about what's going to happen to them? Yes, you need to do those duties, but you also need to be aware of what you really are. This is a temporary game that you're playing. So stay with your true aliveness, and don't just stay there. The Guru says, sing there. Rejoice there. Now, we've heard this instruction so many times in so many different ways. Remember, right at the beginning of Anand Sahib, in verse 2, the Guru said, "E man meria, tu sada raho har nale." O mind of mine, always remain with Hari. But what does that mean? What does it actually mean to go into your core? How do we actually do this? And why is it so mysterious? Why does it sound so cryptic? Well, in the rest of this Anand Sahib verse, hopefully the Guru is going to try and help us understand this mystery a little bit more. In the next line, the Guru says, sacho Dhi-aavhay, tuDh paavhay, gurmukh, jinaa bujhaavhay. They meditate on the truth when you are pleased, and they understand through the Guru's instruction. Now, I always try to make us understand that when the Guru uses language like me and you, when it talks to the divine, when it talks about the enlightened ones are only receiving this wisdom when you are pleased, we have to be aware that the very nature of language is relative. And what I mean by that is that you have to have a duality in your language. In order to just have a functioning language to be able to discuss with other people, you need to be able to make very clear distinctions between I am here and you are there. And so Gurbani has to use very dualistic languages, but it always prefaces those ideas with teachings of oneness. Most verses, certainly any new composition within the Guru Granth Sahib, is always prefaced with this idea of ikonkar. There is oneness. Don't forget that we're talking about oneness, even though we may need to use dualistic language. Ultimately, there is no duality. Ultimately, there is only oneness. That is the supreme truth that is underlying all of this. All the conversations that the Guru has to be had and has to be understood with this understanding that there is a oneness that is being talked about, even though the language is dualistic or may sound like there is a very clear distinction between the divine and us. So in this line, the Guru is saying that they meditate on the truth when you are pleased. And what I try to do with this is I try and decipher some of this in order to understand, what does that really mean? When life is pleased, then certain individuals will understand this. When life chooses, remember, there can be millions of people who listen to this wisdom, but not everybody has that wisdom really embedded deep within their mind. So what is the distinction? Is there one person who's doing something right? Because there could be someone who's doing all the right things and it still just doesn't quite work for them. So there is this element of the divine, the life force, the universe giving its grace. And we've heard this idea of grace all throughout Anand Sahib, that ultimately there is an element that you can't control. In fact, the more we understand ourselves, we realize that actually there's a lot that we can't control, but our mind doesn't like to think in that way. The mind likes to think that we have control. And so the Guru is always saying, well, if you think you have control, there's always this one element that you can't control, which is who is absolutely going to understand this wisdom. And the Guru is saying that when life chooses, when life is pleased with you, when you get that grace, then we become Guru facing. Remember these words, vemukh and sanmukh. Those who turn away from this wisdom and those who are close to this wisdom, who are gurmukh, who are facing this wisdom. And when life chooses, some of us will become gurmukh, will actually start to understand this wisdom at a very intrinsic level, to really dig deep. And so most of us are not in that space right now. We are mind facing, we are individuality facing. Our whole world is colored through this lens of individuality. We look at life through these glasses of me and myself and the ego and I am. That's how we interact with the world. But with this wisdom, you can start to change. You can start to look away from this individual self. You can start to lift the veil of falsehood. There's so many different analogies that the Guru has used. This wisdom talks about it in so many different ways, that there's a curtain in front of your eyes. One of the things I like to think about is almost as though there is a fog in front of you that's not allowing you to see clearly. And that fog is this deluded sense of I am. And the Guru is saying, when life is pleased, some of us will have that fog lifted. We will move away from what I call me thinking into this you thinking, this universal thinking. And those people are meditating on the truth. Now, there's an interesting distinction that needs to be made here. The word Dhi-aavhay, dhyan, has been used here. And dhyan literally means to meditate. But meditation within the Guru's tradition does not mean sitting down and being in lotus pose. Because remember, the Guru says, sadaa Dhi-aavhay. We need to be always meditating. And you can't always be sitting in one pose. You can't always be having your eyes closed. You wouldn't get anything done in the world. And the Guru is saying, those who have really understood this wisdom are always meditating. So they're not necessarily always sitting in lotus pose. So what does meditation mean if it doesn't mean this external practice of meditation? Well, the Guru in this line has combined the word Dhi-aavhay with bujhaavhay. The Guru has used this word bujhaavhay. Bujhana means to understand, to realize. So meditation is linked with an awakened realization. Those people who realize what is going on, who are able to remain in that awareness for most of their lives, if not all of their lives, those are the people who are meditating. That's what meditation really means. Within the Sikh tradition, meditation is not about the external practice. It doesn't say not to do the external practice, but it's saying that that's not what meditation is. Meditation is when there's been a major shift in your mind. That transformation has to happen inside you. You have to have this very clear, fresh perspective on life, very clear perspective on what you really are. So this idea bujhaavhay has been used here. And we've heard this word used a number of times within Anand Sahib. But when we explore a little bit more about this, we discover something really interesting. And remember, I've asked this question slightly earlier within this episode, which is, what is the big mystery? Now, when we look at the word bujhaavhay, we look at the origin of the word comes from another Punjabi word, which is called bujharat. Now, bujharat means a riddle. So, in order to bujhaavhay, in order to understand, the word that's been used is riddle. Somebody who doesn't just understand, somebody who's solved this riddle. Somebody who's been able to unlock this code or decipher the real meaning, to unlock a mystery of life. So what is this mystery? What is the big mystery of life that the Guru is saying in this 39th verse of Anand Sahib? What is the mystery that we need to understand? Now let's look at the last verse, number 38. And the Guru started that verse by saying, Har jiyo gufa andar rakhke vaja pavan vajaya. Hari placed life within the cave and played the flute with breath. This is the mystery of life. Hari, the divine oneness, is the one who is inside you. Oneness is who is breathing right now. Oneness is who is speaking or listening right now. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, can you really understand this? Can you realize this? Can you genuinely grasp this idea that you are not an individual, but you are life force in a temporary shell? You are not you as a individual that is completely separate from everything else. What you truly are is aliveness inside a temporary body. That's the mystery. That's the thing that you can't just read about. That's the thing that no matter how many times you hear it, no matter how many times you read about it, no matter how many times you think, I've heard this enough times, I think I understand, I think I know it. You're not going to understand it unless you really begin to question, who am I? What am I really? What is this thing that is here? And in the next verse and the final verse of Anand Sahib, we'll now start to look at why is that question so important? Why do we need to ask that question? But this is the mystery that needs to be clarified. And in the next line, in this verse, verse 39, the Guru talks a little bit more about clarifying this mystery. Eh sach sabhnaa ka khasam hai, jis bakhsay so paavhay. This truth is the master of all. Only that servant who is blessed can obtain it. This truth, the truth that you are not who you really think you are not a separate individual. You are in fact the life force of the universe in the body of the universe, with the mind of the universe, in the universe itself. Everything is the universe acting through you, acting for you. And this truth is true for every person, for every living being, for everything that you can see and touch and taste and smell. Every single thing is being controlled by this one master. Life itself is the master of all. It is the light that is in everyone. It is the truth that is ultimately true no matter where or in what time. It is always true that nothing is happening by your own doing. It is life doing things through you, for you. This is life playing out a story, and it is acting every single part. Think about life as an actor playing all the parts on a stage. It is the actor, it is all the characters, it is the stage, and it is the audience. It is the orchestra, it is the lights and the curtains. It is all the things that you see in the theatre. It is oneness playing every single role. And that's the ultimate truth, that we need to solve that mystery within ourselves. That isn't something that we just need to hear. It isn't just something that is going to click. We need to ask some very important questions about Who am I really? What do I actually know about myself? And remember, this wisdom is coming from those individuals, those human beings who were born just like you and me, and they had ordinary lives and ordinary jobs and parents and went to school and went to work and fed themselves and had families. They're doing all the same things that you and me are doing, but they also, throughout doing that, they had this idea of trying to decipher, unlock this mystery, to understand the mystery of who they really are. And there's very few people who do that. Very few people who are blessed enough to take a step back and recognize this, recognize what they are, to recognize the unity of it all, to unlock the mystery of themselves. And these people who've been able to do this, who've been able to go on that self-discovery journey, are called servants of the divine. They are here to serve life, not to take from it. They're here, when they understand life, they surrender to it. They say, wow, I get it. I'm here to just sing your praises because I know life is not about me anymore. This is what seva really means. We have this beautiful word within the Sikh spiritual tradition called seva, which means service. And unfortunately, almost everyone who talks about seva as though it's voluntary work, as though it's somehow helping someone else or doing some service for another person. But when the Guru talks about seva, it's not talking about something that you do with your body, because now we've seen so many times throughout this wisdom of Anand Sahib, the Guru really isn't interested with what you do with your body. The Guru is really interested in what you're doing with your mind. So when the Guru is saying serve, he's not saying use your body to help other people. He's saying use your attention to serve life. Where do you place your attention? That's seva. That is what a servant really is. Someone who serves their attention, places their attention on the whole, not on themselves or not on individual parts of life. Just give your attention to your own family or things that only impact you, but keep your attention on the whole. Realize that oneness. Now, I realize that when I use some of this ancient language of Guru Granth Sahib, it might not relate so easily in our life. You know, if we talk about this idea of servants now, several hundred years ago, that might have been a concept that we really understood because we saw it in the society that we lived in, where you have servants and masters. And in today's world, I know certainly in the West, we don't really live in that way where we can see that. So the Guru's using language in a way that you can understand it. The Guru doesn't really care about what the analogies are. The Guru's just using a language that helps you to say, oh, I get it. I understand when you say servant, well, I know what a servant is. I know what a master is. So you're saying that I need to be a servant. So I know how to live like that. But in today's day and age, we don't really think like that. We don't really have examples in our life where we can use to understand the Guru's wisdom. So one of the ways that I take this idea of servant and see how do I understand it with an example that's relevant to me in my life is I actually think about an employee and a manager. So let's see if this analogy works. I replace this idea of servant with the idea of an employee. Now think about it. Who makes the best servant or who makes the best employee? Now the best employee is one who does what the manager or the boss tells them to do, follows the instructions, and the best ones even go beyond their duties. They go above and beyond and serve and come up with innovative ways to really serve or to really do their job really well. Now, they go beyond their basic duties, and when they do that, what happens? The manager or the boss is really pleased. And look at this line the Guru has said, Ja tuDh paavhay. Only those people serve when you are pleased. Well, let's go back to this analogy of the employee. If an employee is doing really well in their job, the manager or the boss is going to be pleased, and the boss is very likely to reward them in some way. And how does an employee get rewarded? They get bonuses, or they may even get a promotion. Now, think about getting a promotion. You've done your job so well that you're promoted. And when you're promoted, what tends to happen is you go higher up the managerial chain in the organization that you work in. And those who are promoted, they get access to more information about how the organization runs. They now have a better understanding of what this job really entails. And so the Guru is trying to use this same analogy of just as an employee might be promoted in a business and understands the business really better, they understand how it runs, in the same way someone who serves life will get promoted with wisdom, and they'll understand more about how life works. They'll understand a better way to connect with life, to realize what is really going on. And so that's our promotion. That's what we're being asked to do. Can you serve this wisdom so well that you get promoted into a higher state of understanding so that you begin to realize the whole? And in the last line, the Guru is saying, kahai naanak, sach sohilaa, saachai ghar gaavhay. Says Nanak, they sing the song of the eternal in the truest home. And the Guru, as in all the verses of Anand Sahib, concludes with the same teaching as in the first line of the verse. And the Guru is really just saying, go back to your home. Go to your true home. Stay there. Understand what you really are. Serve that. And when you're in that space of understanding where you are, who you are, what life really is, rejoice, celebrate, enjoy that space, enjoy what you really are. Now, I want to just bring this point about meditation. That understanding of yourself, and even though I've already said that meditation in the Sikh tradition doesn't mean sitting down and closing your eyes, I cannot deny the value of sitting down and closing your eyes, because there is so much value in actually taking yourself out of life for a few moments in your day, taking yourself out of the rat race of life and actually just focusing on things that are not to do with your body, not to do with your responsibilities, not to do with your family, your duties, not to do with your health or your wealth, but actually just sit and say, I don't need anything right now. Life as it is okay, regardless of what's happening in my individual story. Regardless of what my personal circumstances are, can I sit and rejoice and sing and celebrate regardless of what's happening in my life? When you can practice that for short amounts of time throughout your day, even if it's once or twice a day, that has the ability to carry itself on. So you do need a physical practice. You do need to practice and sit down. And this is where the Guru is saying, try and do it with others who are also on this journey. Because if you can meditate with others, if you can contemplate with others, if you can learn from others, you're going to carry that wisdom. And I hope that you're finding, even with this Anand Sahib series, through this digital Sangat that we're sitting together and we're discussing these ideas, that when you learn this wisdom, that you sometimes find that it stays with you for a while. I know I find that if I listen to a lecture, if I listen to wisdom that really has a new or novel way of teaching my brain, it stays with me for a while. It doesn't stay with me for long, and that's why I need to keep going back. I need to keep listening to this wisdom. I need to keep surrounding myself with people who understand this wisdom. So the Guru is saying that you need to go into that true home and remember and sing and rejoice this oneness. So let's not dismiss the value of having an external community of people that allow you, let's call that the external home or the Guru's home or anywhere where the wisdom is being understood, that allows you to go into your internal home. Either way, practice it with singing, with joy, with celebration. And when we do that, we can now begin to start understanding what are the changes that we need to make in our life. How do we begin to experience true bliss at every moment? Answer the following questions either by writing them down or discussing them in your groups. What do you understand as your true home? What changes are you making to practice the Guru's wisdom? How can you regularly experience the song of union? What challenges do you face in life that make you forget the oneness?